My name is Joe, and I will be your guide through the percussion book today. First, we will talk about the snare drum, particularly the setup of the snare drum. When you set the snare drum up first, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the drum is at a level that is comfortable for you to play. Each person is going to be different. Some people might be a little taller, some people might be a little bit shorter. That's okay. Please remember, though, that the stand that the drum is on will and should move up and down for comfort of the height for the snare drum. Now, when you set up the snare drum, what you want to try to do is you want to try to make it that the snare itself, the top of the rim, is roughly about, say, belly button, belt buckle height. I always use the Goldilocks analogy. You don't want the drum to be too high. You don't want the drum to be too low. You want it to be just right. So if you have the drum too high, it'll force your hands to be kind of like I call a praying mantis. Like this, you don't want it to be too low that your hands and your arms are hyperextended down. You want it to be just right. So the idea is when you set up the drum, the idea is that when you bring up your sticks or your mallets, that my forearms are as parallel with the ground as possible. Okay? Now, when I stand up behind the drum, I want to stand a nice distance behind the drum. Not too far back that I'm having to reach, and not too far forward that my hands and my arms are pulled back behind me. You want to stand at a good, comfortable distance. Basically, when you bring your sticks or mallets up, especially in this case the sticks, you want to bring your sticks up so that the sticks, the mallet or the stick head is just slightly forward of the center of the drum. If I'm back here, I'm not going to reach that, and if I'm here, I'm going to be pulling back further than what I need to. You'd like to stand with your feet roughly about shoulder width apart, nice and comfortable. Basically, whenever you play, you want it to be nice and relaxed. Okay, so your feet should be about shoulder width apart, nice and relaxed. Your back should be standing up nice and tall. You don't want to really hunch over. Then your head should be kind of up and level. There might be some times where your eyes are going to be moving back and forth between like maybe the drum, the music, and the conductor. But generally you don't want to play with your head buried down or you're looking up because you might either miss the drum or you might miss the conductor. Again, your shoulders and your elbows should be nice and relaxed at the side of your body. So when I pick up the sticks, they go like this and I'm right in playing position. I'm not doing anything weird or kind of extending my arms. I feel when you extend your arms and you kind of put your hands and your arms and your body in an unnatural position, that's when you will create problems for yourself, such as tendonitis or carpal tunnel. You just want to be careful, and you want it to be a nice, relaxed playing position. Next thing, in terms of the grip, what you want to do is you want to hold the stick between the thumb and the forefinger. That is what we call the fulcrum. That's where something will pivot. Okay? Then what you want to do is you want to grip it nice and firm, but not too firm. Again, the Goldilocks philosophy. Not too tight that your knuckles hurt and they turn white, not too loose that the stick flops around in your hand, but tight enough that you grip the stick, and this is where you want to control the stick. Okay, then all you're going to do is just wrap these fingers around for support. Again, fulcrum, wrap the fingers around, and this is matched grip. Okay, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that your palms, for the most part, are flat, so the back side of your hand is facing straight up towards the ceiling. Your hands are nice and relaxed, elbows are in, not totally against your body, but you can see between my elbows and the side of my body, and your sticks are in basically make a V pattern like this. Okay, and then when you put your sticks out, you want to put your sticks and you want to play just slightly north or towards the rim of the center of the drum. You don't really want to play in the center of the drum. You kind of get a little bit more of a pop sound. You want to play just slightly above the center of the drum, and your sticks should be as I mentioned, in a V, and the beads of your sticks should not be, you don't want them to be laying and touching the drum. You want them to be just slightly above the drum. So again, you don't want them to be like up here. You want them to be here and not touching on the drum. The sticks that we are using today are Vic Firth SD1 Generals. The reason why I like these sticks is they are pretty firm and strong, kind of beefy for concert snare work. Sometimes as a drummer, as a snare drummer, you're going to be one person and you're going to have to kind of play over, say, 20 or 30 wins or 40 wins. These are really good sticks. They're nice quality sticks. You normally want to try to make sure you're playing with a stick like this, like the SD1s, not really some 5As or 5B like jazz, or drum set sticks that are a little bit thinner. And these have a wooden tip. I prefer the wooden tip over a nylon tip because, in my experience, the nylon tip, the glue will come undone and the tip will rattle around. Wooden tip, I believe, are a little bit better, and they give you a really good quality of sound. The next aspect that we're going to talk about is the setup of the drum and how to strike the drum. So first, you want to make sure, again, we talked about that the height of the drum should be about belly button, belt buckle height. Okay. Again, you want to make sure that it's flat. I just have it tilted for demonstration purposes only, but you want to make sure that the drum is nice and even and flat. When you set up the drum, we have a mechanism here called the throw-off. This, you can push it up, and it puts the snares on, and you turn it off, and it turns the snares off. These are the snares. When they're not on, they give us that tom-tom sound. Then when we turn them on, it gives us a snare drum sound. Okay? When you set the drum up at the correct height and everything, you want to make sure that this mechanism is facing your body. So the idea is that if you have to turn the snares on or off, they are right here. And you turn it off, and you turn it back on. You're not having to search and reach around the drum. And it's easier when it's right here to turn them on and off. You want to make sure that when you set everything up, you're comfortable with your setup, the drum is at the correct height, and you want to make sure that, let's say the camera was the conductor, my drum would be here, my music stand with my music would be right in front of me, and then it would be in line with the conductor. So you want to make sure that everything is in line. You don't want to have the snare drum set up with the drums, with the stand, and then the conductors off to your left or to your right, because then you're not able to see them, and you don't want to play and have to turn and look and come back and look and come back. You want everything to be in line visually, okay? When you strike the drum, you want to strike just off the center. So again, we talked about this, but you want to strike just above or kind of north of center. You really don't want to strike in the center of the drum. You get a little bit more of like a boxy kind of poppy sound, okay? Now, one other device that you can utilize is if you have to play something in the music that's soft, what we tend to do is we'll play either kind of what we call in the center, kind of halfway, and then at the edge. Now, the benefit of having the snares running this way is that when you have to play soft, I'm still getting that snare sound and that response versus getting more of that tom sound, which is what we don't want to get. When you play softer at the edge or halfway, what you can do is you can play with a little bit more, sense of comfortable. Being able to play and not have to feel like I have to play in the center and play really delicate and super soft and light, and then maybe it doesn't sound as good. Where I can play out towards the edge with the same intensity to a degree that I'm playing in the center, but it's not as strong or as loud. Okay? Now, when we strike the drum, when we actually play, again, you want to make sure that the drum is nice and parallel. And when you bring your hands up, the arms are parallel with the ground. Now, when I strike the drum, what I want to make sure of is that the stick is here, it's slightly off the drum or off the striking surface, and then I'm going to bring my stick up. Now, if you notice, what I'm doing is when I'm doing this, stick comes up, and I'm turning the wrist. I'm not really using the arm, I'm just turning the wrist, and that's called the full stroke. And if you notice, from that angle, I'm keeping the fingers on the stick. You don't want to really come up and then let the fingers come off the stick and fly off the stick and then come back down and then come off the stick. You want your fingers to always stay on the stick, okay? Now again, as I mentioned, the Goldilocks philosophy, You don't want it to be too tight that you're gripping it really, really tight and your hands hurt, but not too loose that the stick flops around and actually if you strike the drum, the stick will come flying out of your hand, but you want to hold it nice and firm within the fulcrum, okay? And then again, wrapping those fingers around, okay? Now, the drum, one of the techniques you want to utilize is the rebound. So when I'm playing the drum, I start here and I push the stick down and then I allow the stick to rebound back up. It's just a natural thing. It's the way that I teach it is like you're using a tennis ball or even a basketball, but a tennis ball. You have the ball in your hand, you go up, you throw the ball down, the ball hits the ground or whatever the surface, comes back up to your hand, and you come back down, and it's that same motion. And that's the same fluid motion you want to have when you're playing the snare drum. When you play the drum, you want to really try to strike the drum with a good sense of force, but not too heavy. There's two methodologies. I subscribe to the first one, where you want to play the drum and hit the drum and try to pull the sound up out of the drum. And then there's another methodology of trying to hit the drum and push through as if the playing surface is about an inch or so below the actual striking surface. I feel like doing this gets a much more natural sound and you're not really slamming on the instrument. Again, you want to make sure you're utilizing the rebound. And mostly every instrument that you're going to play, snare drum, timpani, xylophone, those instruments will have some rebound. So you really want to use that. And especially on snare drum, and whether it's concert or marching, once you kind of get to some passages that are a little bit faster, you really want to utilize the rebound. So again, stick goes up, full stroke, goes straight up, keep the fingers on, comes back down. You want to play just slightly north of the center of the drum and utilize the rebound.